All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Chris Crenshaw, and we are live from the 704 once again for episode 259 of the 815 Exchange. And ladies and gentlemen, all right, we've got a lot to talk about in combat sports, and of course, that's going to kick us off today. We do have two All-Star games to talk about. WNBA, the W had theirs, the MLB had theirs. We'll be talking about that. Scottie Scheffler went absolutely ballistic in the Open Championship, so I have to talk about that. And we just got a few things to talk about music, nothing really too crazy, I'm not going to lie to you. But yeah. All right, that's the agenda for today. As always, remember to like, share, and subscribe if you guys are enjoying the content. I'm not going to sit here and lie to y'all, though. If the energy at some point dies during this episode, it is because I am literally running off of maybe like 40 minutes, maybe an hour of sleep. And to be honest, to just be completely truthful, I was watching Jakura. I was watching Jakura in Japan episode 3 and seeing Jason put his jersey in the rafters. So understandable, the boy had to be healed just like the rest of you guys. I am an understander. So, I had to witness that historical moment. So sleep had to take a back seat. But nonetheless, we are still here. All right. On July 20th. All right. You'll see this 21st, but July 20th. All right. We are still here and we still got things to attend to. So get some food, get some drinks, whatever, get cozy, and let's get to business. And of course, as is tradition here on the 815 Exchange, we are kicking it off with the fight game. And first, before we talk about what was a busy weekend in boxing, let's talk about UFC 318. All right, I'm going to sit here. I'm not going to lie to y'all. It was not the strongest UFC card of all time. It was literally a Dustin Poirier memorial card. That was literally, memorial kind of sounds like he died. And Dustin Poirier is very much so alive. It was his retirement card. All right, it was his last fight, his third fight against the blessed one, Max Holloway, for the BMF belts. And that's how Dustin, he got to go out on his own terms, which I think is really cool. And Max won this fight. I'm not going to, Max was the better man. All right. I think, by the way, first time Dustin's ever dropped 2 in a row. But I think it was the right time. I think this fight did show it was the right time for Dustin to walk away, still with some dignity and not completely, BJ pinwashed. But Max was he was just a step better. He was just a step better throughout the fight. Dustin had his moments, but Max was just better. He was just better. The striking was crispier. He was Max. All right. It was the prototypical great Max Holloway performance. And then it almost got wicked at the end for the Diamond because Max loves at the end of these BMF belts or BFMF title fights. He loves to point to the middle of the ring and then basically be like, let's go at it. And of course, with it being Dustin's last fight, he wanted to let Dustin go out like the warrior he is, respect, even though Max was obviously winning the fight at that point. And they started trading shots. Dustin actually lands a nice, I think, left hand on Max, and then Max just does not feel it. Just completely eats it and fires off an absolute disgusting combo. And Dustin is like, absolutely not. Let's wrestle. I'm not getting knocked out in my last fight. So, that was a funny little moment at the end. But, Max, again, all-time great fighter. Dustin also an all-time great fighter, even though he was only an interim champ. Easily a Hall of Famer, one of the definitive lightweights of his generation. And, two great guys. Two great fighters. I think it was, in the fight game where that last fight is not always kind of the dream scenario unless you're leaving in your prime. Oftentimes we do see legends go out on their back, so to speak. It was nice to see Dustin kind of get to go out on his own terms against a guy like Max that was going to do him justice and still have a good scrap. So, even though this wasn't like a super main event or a super card, I think it was a really good retirement fight for Dustin, and the game will miss him. All right, I think he got really unlucky being around a lot of generational talent in his division, but nonetheless, still a Hall of Famer, and we'll miss him. All right, we'll miss him. But hell of a way to go out, but the blessed is still blessed. Or at least the baddest. All right. The co-main event was Paulo Costa versus Roman Kopylov. And the Kopylov experiment hype train died a very methodical death because Paulo Costa the eraser looked like he was back. He looked like the eraser again. This didn't look like meme Costa who, almost, looks like the Costa in the build-up before he fought Izzy. He looked like that guy in this fight. He looked good. The body work he did to Kopylov in this fight to break him down and end up getting him this decision was really, really impressive. Really, really, really impressive. It was trademark Paulo stuff. So yeah, Costa looked really, really good. Kopylov, got to go back to the drawing table. You weren't ready for prime time. But Paulo, we'll see. All right. Again, he can be a dangerous customer when he's focused. But the thing is, getting him focused. It's a challenge. It can be a challenge. Other things that happened on this UFC card. Daniel Rodriguez and Kevin Holland was the third fight, down. All right, that was the third quote-unquote headliner, which should tell you about the strength of this card. But it was a really good fight. All right, it ended up being a really, really good scrap. D-Rod won. But yeah, really, really good scrap. We'll see if Holland continues to try to go for that record for most matches in a single calendar year. This was his fourth. The record would be 6. All right, you have to fight 6 times, which, it's only July, and it is Big Mouth, so I wouldn't be surprised. And he took damage, obviously, in this fight, but nothing too, horrendous that would prevent him from fighting for the rest of the year. So we'll see. Marvin Vettori is washed. He is washed. That's all I really got to say about that. Vettori is washed. Tide Pods, okay? That was UFC 318. Like I said, not a crazy card. There was a lot of decisions. It wasn't going to be on any all-time great cards list or even of the year list. But like I said, a very heartwarming and completely a mixed martial arts way of being heartwarming retirement fight for Dustin Poirier. So that was that. Boxing. All right, the headliner this weekend was the heavyweight title fights for the undisputed crown. Alexander Usyk unfairly got his, I believe it was the IBF, stripped away for boxing reasons. So it ended up on Daniel Dubois' waist. And Dubois, of course, arguably maybe should have won that fight against Usyk, depending on if you felt that was a low blow or not. Because Usyk did not beat that count. But we got the rematch here, and I'm going to be honest. Alexander Usyk, we've talked about it plenty of times on this channel at this point, and I will say it again. You need to put some respect on this man's name. He is one of the greatest I'm not just greatest heavyweights of all time. No. This is one of the greatest boxers ever. Ever. Undisputed 2 divisions. Undisputed 3 times. He knocks out Dubois here. Left no question. No question who was the better man on this night. Was rather dominant in these 5 rounds, even though you could argue Dubois may have taken one of them. But otherwise, Usyk was just better. He was outboxing him. He was outslugging him. Just anywhere where you could beat a man in the game of boxing, the art of boxing, he beat him at. And then he knocked him out. Put him down. So, yeah, all-time great. All-time great. Put some respect on Alexander Usyk's name. One of the best to ever do it, and he proves it yet again. He's beaten everybody he's supposed to beat. Unblemished. That's GOAT talk. And speaking of another GOAT, all right, even though I'm not going to headline this, Manny Pacquiao because why not? 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao fought Mario Barrios. And between the 2 fighters, I'm going to be honest, 46-year-old Pacquiao didn't look like the one that needed to retire. It looked like Mario Barrios, who drew Pacquiao here. He did not look like it was a very disappointing performance. A very, very disappointing performance from Barrios. But hey, credit to the old Pac-Man, all right, even though he needs to please retire. Manny, please. Are you broke? What? Why are you still... You got, you're an all-time great, bro. You don't got to do this no more. I don't think you're belting up anywhere, so I really don't. At least at a high level, I don't, but you know what? More power to him. All right, he loves the game, I guess. Jesse Bam Rodriguez took care of Cafu in very short work, I'm going to be honest. Collected another title, 115. He continues to be one of the hottest young stars in boxing, and just adds another name to his tally. Fedor beat Shuyu in the rematch. Of course, that was an absolutely brutal, bloody affair the first time around. This time they both got a full camp, and I'm going to be honest, Fedor took care of him. Took care of him. All right, similar to the Usyk fight where it was just this guy's better than the other. And it was an impressive performance for Andorra. He gets it done there. And ladies and gentlemen, that was Combat Sports. So let's talk about, you know what? I'm going to let the W, get the main event this week. So we're going to talk MLB. All right, we're going to very quickly talk about the MLB. All-Star Week. Cal Raleigh continues to have the greatest power hitting season for a catcher in MLB history by winning the home run derby contest. Of course, just because of course it made sense. It came down to him and Junior Camillero, and Camillero just ran out of gas at the end. Cal really set the tone there, and again, it just continues to impress. Again, a shame. Obviously, as a Yankees fan, not really, but a shame that he's having this season, but Aaron Judge is alive. So that MVP is just probably not going to happen. But nonetheless, still an incredible year for Cal Raleigh, and it continues by winning the Home Run Derby contest. The actual All-Star game ends up going 6-6 in the ninth, so they didn't have like a home run tie-off. Kyle Schwarber goes 3 for 3 in that and wins it for the West. So first time they've ever done that, kind of like, homer off, tee off, whatever you want to call it. Interesting concept. Understand it. You don't want to go extra innings in a fucking All-Star game. So I get it. I get it. At least for the MLB All-Star game. I know NBA and the Pro Bowl back in the day, they would be perfectly fine with that. But MLB, understandable. And you know what? It was rather exciting. All right, so I ain't mad at it. But yeah, Schwarber wins the swing off and gets the NL the win. So a little bit of a split there. All right, the AL player wins the Home Run Derby. The NL, however, wins the All-Star game. Let's keep it rolling. All right, let's keep it rolling with entertainment. All right, music. All right, big week last week. All right, we had a big week last week. Not as much craziness this week. All right, we even had Superman last week. Not this week. We do have Fantastic Four coming up very, very soon, and of course, the boy will be reacting to that. But Headie One did drop. Drake and Cinch did not, but Headie did. All right, Headie did drop overseas. Thierry Henry. Again, it's something about British rappers naming songs about soccer or football players, and it's a hit. It's a hit. I've never heard a single song made by a British rapper named after a soccer player that hasn't been heat. Not one. It's an insane track record, and it continues here. Thierry Henry, very, very good if you want to get into that lane. Headie is one of the best out right now, so shout out to the boy. MAGICMAN 2. All right, Jackson Wang. A lot of great vocals on this. It was a lot slower paced than I expected. I honestly expected Jackson, with the whole MAGICMAN persona, to dip a little bit more into that kind of R&B bag. He kind of stayed away from it. It was a lot of, I want to say ballads, but really good vocal performance here, but it was a lot of slower, more reflective stuff, which wasn't, like I said, wasn't bad. I'm going to give it a 7.9. I'm going to give it a 7.9. I think it's fair. Honestly, a pretty solid argument for making it an 8. But I'm going to say it's a 7.9 right now. It could grow on me. It could be one of those, because I think slower paced songs tend to grow on me, so it could be one of those that kind of grows. But for now, I'm going to give it a 7.9. I don't know if it was better than the OG MAGICMAN, but it was still a very solid performance from Mr. Jackson Wang. And yeah, that was really it. Like I said, nothing too much. I'm watching Olympio on Netflix, Spanish show. Very good so far. All right, very, very good so far. Have not gotten around to watching the Love Island Beyond the Villa yet. That is on the to-do list. Maybe this week, like I said. Jakar has been going crazy, so I'm not going to say lie to you. I've been real tapped into that. I've been real tapped into that, and that's been taking most of my time. I've even damn near paused my Gossip Girl run through because I've been watching everybody's streams and then them reacting to it. It's taking over right now. All right, so that's what is going on in entertainment. All right, besides all the Love Island drama with them being out of the villa and all that stuff, but y'all can get that on Twitter because it's literally all over my feed. Let's talk about the W. Okay, let's talk about the W. I want to talk about the WNBA All-Star game. All right, first off, pay the girls. Pay the gals. All right, pay the gal them. All right, first off, let's get that underway. Number 2, very high-scoring game. This felt like a classic All-Star game. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. Now, it sucked that Caitlyn couldn't, take place, even though she was team captain. I honestly, at this point, just sit her for you're going to have to take it if you're the Fever. And if it loses the season, it loses the season. But there's no point in risking the franchise and the future face of the league, the future maybe best player in the league, with this lingering groin injury that's clearly been affecting her. As we talked about last week, the shot is just not there. So just sit her. All right, just sit her until she's healthy, and then you go from there. All right, if it takes a month, 2 months, it is what it is. But you got to think a little bit longer than maybe just kind of the short term of, oh, we were supposed to be a championship contender this year. Well, things happen. All right, and you need CC healthy, so important to get her back healthy. But nonetheless, Phee's team wins. She also wins All-Star Game MVP. So Nafisa Collier MVP directive continues to build momentum as we go on through the season. She had 36. Skylar Diggins had the first ever triple-double in a WNBA All-Star Game, so shout out to Skylar. The Tony P's team CC. Very solid. Like I said, very solid. It was a great All-Star weekend for the W, by the way. It was a great All-Star weekend. And it wasn't because the Liberty, swept the skills challenges with Natasha Cloud literally winning the skills challenge and then Sab winning the three-point contest for the third straight year. All right, CC, please get healthy so you can challenge her and get the shot right so you can challenge her next year. But the Stud Budz. All right, I got to talk about the Stud Budz. The 72-hour stream, that was genius. That was absolutely genius. The after parties, them absolutely plastered, tea and court like that was fire. I was tapped in. All right, I was watching those. It was good stuff. All right, it was good stuff, and kind of took the little bit of the cover off of kind of some of the rumors, because I'm not gonna say it's been toxic in the W, but with the increased attention, there's been a lot of agendas being thrown around, and they did a really good job kind of debunking it and bringing in some light to the players and showing more of their personalities beyond the court. So really cool stuff. Again, probably a PR danger a little bit. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, but it was very entertaining as a fan. So shout out to the Stud Budz. Continue to be one of the fan favorite stories of the current season. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the roundup. All right, we're talking golf to kick us off here today. All right, we're talking golf. No racing this week. All right, sorry, racing fans. Come back next week. All right, we'll talk about IndyCar and NASCAR or whatever. But this week, no racing. We are talking about the Open Championship. I mean, Scottie Scheffler just wiped the floor with everybody. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. After the 64 on day 2, it was pretty much wraps. I'm just being honest. It was done. All right, nobody was touching him. He went into that mode that Scottie seems to get in where he's just the best, He's just like, I'm the best golfer in the world. None of you can touch me. All right, none of you can even remotely touch me. And he was in that mode this weekend. All right, he was in that mode after that 64 on day 2. It was done and dusted. All right, nobody caught him. He won by 4 shots with a 17 under. Here, it's his first Open Championship, his 4th major title. Of course, Open here. He won the Masters twice and the PGA, which means all he has left to do is to win the U.S. Open for the career slam. I would not doubt Scottie Scheffler being able to pull that off with the form that he is in currently, even though he's going to have to wait till, of course, next year after the U.S. Open reaped everybody this year. But Scottie, dominant as always, dominates the Open Championship, collects that 4th, or, well, should I say his first Clare Jug 4th major. Now, we didn't talk about it last week. Let's talk about some National Basketball Association stuff, all right? What's going on in the Summer League, all right? Anything happening in the free agency, trades, all right? Damian Lillard, I thought he was going to, I'm not going to lie, I was kind of expecting him to do the whole rehab for a year and then he'll choose what team he goes to, but no, he's going home, all right? Which honestly I respect. Damian Lillard is going back to Portland, and I respect it. All right. Now, sure, Dame could have gone for the legacy piece of chasing that championship, which, we've seen player and star after star as they wane down and grow in age do plenty of times. But I honestly kind of respect it. All right. Dame goes back home to mentor Scoot, mentor Shaden, mentor all of the rest of those great young players and that great young core that Portland's starting to assemble. And really just kind of see him in his place. All right, see him in his place, get that statue. All right, I respect it. Go get that statue, Dame. All right, if you don't have it already, go get that statue outside the Rose Garden. All right, but Dame back to Portland, and Trailblazers fans everywhere rejoiced. Summer League. Bronny been hooping, which I'm personally not surprised by. I've been saying this. I said this last year. All right. He lost a year of development with, what happened at USC. But give him time. Just give him time. Give him time, and he will show you that he belongs. And right now, he's the best player on that Los Angeles Lakers Summer League team. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. He's very clearly the best player on that team. He's been cooking. All right, he has been cooking. He looks like a guy that could be a rotational fit. on that Lakers team. Would I be shocked? He's going to get there sooner than later. Let me just put it like that. So yeah, Bronny's been hooping. Colin Knippel has been cooking for the Hornets. Did have to leave yesterday's game with the facial injury, but he is looking like he's going to be a great fit, which I laminated as well, not to toot my own horn, with the Hornets again. And I think he's a better defender than people give him credit for. Not saying he's going to be this like lockdown guy, but I think Cod will still be a very good asset for the Hornets to keep and build around. All right, with all of the rest of their talent that they're accumulating currently here in Charlotte, but we will see. All right, we will see. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a quick episode. All right, that is a quick episode. Got to be one of the fastest episodes I've ever done. All right, but I feel like we covered plenty, so I'm going to give you some extra time back. All right, I hope you enjoyed the rest of your week. I'm having a great July. It was Pop's birthday last week, so happy birthday, Pops, if you're watching this. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, for episode 259, Ocho signing off.